Hi and welcome to my channel. I'm Simon and today I'm back to do a video that I have not done for years and years and years, but I'm bringing back this year. But before I should mention, I'm even slightly dolled up for it. I mean, I say that this is literally a shirt, well, a t-shirt that looks like a shirt, but you know, that's a little bit more dolled up for me. Although I hope I'm not showing too much clavage. Anyway, the video that I have not done for years and years and years and years is predicting the Booker Prize dozen. So the 13 books I have 13 books here that I think could be on the long list. I am sure I will be very, 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 very wrong. However, with prizes, and I say this every time, I'm always quite delighted to be wrong because invariably I find out loads of new books that I've not heard about and get very excited about them, probably purchase quite a few of them and then don't get around to reading them unless it's like the Women's Prize Longlist where I do. And actually that does link in because I read the Women's Prize Longlist with my mum each year, and this year Savages are taking on the Booker, or me and my mum are doing a Savage take on the Booker, as we will be reading not the long list, well maybe, who knows, it depends what the long list is, because the ones that I've chosen I would definitely just sit and read through all of them, obviously if they've come off my bookshelves, but we're definitely going to be reading the shortlist 2022 together. We thought it would be a good fun new project. Who knows if we'll do it every year, but we're going to do it for 2022. So without further ado, I'm going to go through the 13 books that I've picked. I'll tell you a little bit about them, and well, from what I know about them and why I'm interested in them, and yeah, that's going to be that. I have, to add some extra fun into the mix, put them in author, surname, order. Sorry, I have put all the books in alphabetical order of author, surname. So let's get cracking with my Booker predictions. So first up I have Horse by Geraldine Brooks. I'm a big fan of Geraldine Brooks' writing. I loved her book about The Secret Chord, which is about one of the Bible stories. I love The Year of Wonder, which is about the plague in Ian, which is the only town outside London that got the Black Death, and is very near to where my hometown's from, so I've been there. Anyway, this is all about a particular horse, and I think a family of horse breeders, and it does remind me in terms of synopsis of The Sport of Kings, which is on the Women's Prize Longlist a few years ago, and I absolutely loved what I never thought I would have, because for those of you who might have followed me since I blogged and then podcasted before I started booktubing, I'm not a big fan of horses in general. They know too much, they look at you and they know all, and I didn't think I would care about or want to read about horses in fiction, but absolutely loved it. I think it was the family dynasty element, and I think this is the same. That book looked at race, I believe this one does too, and yeah, I'm really, really, really intrigued for it. Then we have Joan by Katherine J. Chen, which is a fictional account of Joan of Arc, and I am so intrigued with it. I mean, how beautiful is that anyway? That should win an award for its cover alone. But yeah, I don't know that much about Joan of Arc, so I'm intrigued to find out more. But obviously, like, Joan of Arc is just in our kind of almost like pop culture history as well as cultural history. I'm thinking like Madonna and Little Mix have done songs about her and stuff, but also, yeah, there've been films about it, etc. So I'm really, really keen to read this, and I've heard this is absolutely amazing. Hilary Mantel, who has won the Booker, says that it's as if the author has crept inside a statue and breathed a soul into it, recreating Joan of Arc as a woman of our time. So yeah, very excited for this one. I think it could be on the list. It was Kieran. It was Kieran of KD Books. I did that very funny. It was KD Books that said this. It was Kieran of KD Books who reminded me that this was eligible. It's Emergency by Daisy Hildyard, which is a book about climate crisis and about nature and celebrating nature, but also like how we need to protect it. And I think this could be in with a shot, and Fitzcarraldo do pretty well with the Booker, to be fair, more so the international than the the non-international one, even though it is still international, you know what I mean. I think this could be in with a shot. I'm very excited for this next book. I loved the authors first. It is Yara Rodriques Fowler, and this is There Are More Things. And like her previous book, Stubborn Archivist, I think this looks at where Brazilian culture and British culture clash, collide, merge, mix, and all that kind of good stuff. And yeah, I'm really, really excited for this. I absolutely love that cover. I've heard that the book's got like instructions or something, so that's going to be quite interesting. But yeah, I'm really, I think if I just spotted a recipe in here, possibly. But I think this one could be on there because of the way it's playing with form. I should have said sorry. I think this one could be on there because of the subject matter of climate change. And all of them, obviously, I think are going to be well written, which is why I put them on. This historical fiction always does super duper well. Big American author. Yeah, and then I think this, because it plays with prose and language and writing so much. One of my favourite, in fact, I've read a few of these actually. I've read 3 of the books that I'm going to recommend. I'm recommending them all, even though I've not read them. No. 3 of my predictions I have actually read. The first of which, and is one of my absolute favourite books of the year, you'll have seen it in my Books of 2022 so far video, which I'll link down below if you've missed it, is Violets by Alex Hyde. Now, the only thing that makes me think this might not be eligible is it's really written in like vignettes, but it's a very short book, and I don't know if there's a like minimum amount of words that a book has to have, and in which case this might not hit the criteria. But it's a book that made me cry. I absolutely love it. It's about 2 different women called Violet, one who has lost the children that she was going to have just as her husband goes to war, another who gets pregnant by a soldier and goes to help the war effort to escape what is happening to her, although obviously she's not going to be able to escape it, and we follow on from there, and it's just superb, amazing, one of my favourite books of the year. Another book I really loved is Lauren John Joseph's At Certain Points We Touch, which is all about JJ, who has found out, or is reminded of a lover that they used to have who's died, and goes back over reminiscing. I don't want to say it's nostalgic and reminiscent, but also it's quite tough because their relationship was not, well, it was tempestuous relationship, and so you've got that nostalgia and you've got that sort of reminiscing, but there's also this melancholy and this slight anger, and yet this passion and this fire, and it's just a book that's so brimming with emotions and so beautifully written. I will say it is a bit dense at times, but sometimes Booker books can be, and yeah, so I wouldn't be surprised if we saw this on the list, and I would be delighted for Lauren John Joseph because I think they are fabulous. I wanted to pick an Australian book, and one of my possibilities was Blue Hour by Sarah Schmidt, but because Sarah's a friend, I thought that might seem a little bit, I don't know, what's the term, whatever that term is. So I went for Devotion by Hannah Kent, which I think could equally have just as much of a shot. Hannah Kent writes so beautifully. I've loved both of her previous books, The Good People and Burial Rites. I haven't read this yet, but I'm really keen to. I believe it is a lesbian love story, and it's a real epic, and yeah, I think that could be in with a shot. And I always like to see some Australian literature on the Booker Prize Longlist. It hasn't happened so much for a while, since Richard O'Flanagan won with The Narrow to the Deep North, I don't think, and I do feel like since the prize has gone outside of the Commonwealth, whatever thoughts you have on the Commonwealth, like that's what the remit used to be. I have many thoughts on the Commonwealth, which I won't go into, but I do feel like we get less variety maybe, and I would like more of that from like all over the world. Anyway, I'm not sure how varied actually my list is. I think it's quite, he says, mine's quite UK, America centric. But next we have Juhea Kim's Beast of a Little Lamb, and this is about Korea's history trying to seek independence, and I think big books like this that deal with other countries' historical moments and particularly around things like independence tend to be sort of Booker fodder as a rule. Also, I just really want to read this, so it would give me an excuse to get to it, because this has been on my shelves for way too long. But yeah, I don't know much about Korea, and I would like to know a lot more. And I think that's also what can be great about some Booker books, is you do get to experience like other stories from all around the world. So yeah. Then we have a debut that I think, again, like Yara, Rodriques, Fowler, it really kind of plays with form and what we expect from a book, and that is Maps of Our Spectacular Bodies by Maddie Mortimer, which is told, I believe, from the perspective of cancer as it travels through a woman's body. I think it sounds really dark and bleak and quite tricky, and I know that Ewan of Hardback Hypebeast wept a lot, and he told me I should read it because it's such an emotional book. I think that could be one of the reasons why it ends up on the list. I think it's one that's going to really hit people quite hard emotionally, and so yeah, I'm gunning for that one a little bit. And then we have Lapvona by Ottessa Moshfegh. This is meant to be her most experimental work. I think it's set in medieval times possibly, and I've heard loads of praise about it, but what's been really interesting is reviewers have been very good at like not saying too much other than it's quite dark, quite gritty, which you would expect I think from Ottessa Moshfegh, and quite experimental, but also very different for her. And she has been on the Booker Longlist before, and indeed the shortlist, because I interviewed her that year with Eileen, so yeah, maybe she could return. Then a debut that I have banged on about like in almost every video recently, except for my best books of 2022 so far, because I haven't read it yet, but it could end up on the list, I feel, of like my best of 2022, full stop. And that is Other Names for Love by Taymour Soomro, and it's one boy's life-changing summer in rural Pakistan, a hypnotic story of fathers, sons and consequences of desire. And that to me also has a real bookery feel to it, so we shall see. Penultimately, a previous winner, I think. I know that a lot of people have said this probably will make it, but then also some people are like, no, not going to happen at all. What a random vapid comment to make there, Simon. You could say that about any blinking book. Anyway, Young Mungo by Douglas Stuart, which is his follow-up to Shuggie Bain, which won a couple of years ago. I think this could be in with a chance. I believe it's a sort of star-crossed lover's tale set in 80s Glasgow. And yeah, I'll be intrigued to see, because I've heard quite mixed things about this one, which is quite interesting, but I need to make up my mind myself. And last but not least, a book that I have read, and part of me would just like to see get longlisted and then shortlisted so my mum had to read it, but also because whilst this is not the perfect book, I think it is quite an incredible book, and I'm a big fan of the author, and it's a big old book. It is To Paradise by Hanya Yanagihara, and again, Hanya has been shortlisted for the Booker before. This is her first book since that, because that was A Little Life. And yeah, I think this book does some really, really interesting things. Like I said, it's not the perfect book, but I don't think that exists. And I think the ways in which this book makes you think, and the ways also the third part particularly is so relevant, and the first part just so gorgeous. I wasn't sure about them a little bit. It makes me think that this could be a Booker contender. So there we go. Somehow I managed to do 13 books in under 13 minutes, which is unheard of for me. Maybe it's because I'm recording quite a lot of videos in one go and I've just really, really got into my rhythm. Maybe this is the way forward. I need to spend like a day or two just so solidly recording booktube videos to go out for the forthcoming month or whatever, and then yeah, they'd all be streamlined and swift as this. Although, did I pause this in the middle for some reason? I don't know. I feel like maybe I did, but maybe I didn't. On that fascinating note, I would love to know what you think is going to be on the Booker Prize Longlist next week. Which books I've picked do you agree with? What do you disagree with? Let's have a chat about all of that in the comments down below. One thing I will say is I'm excited about all of these books, so if you have read them and you didn't like them, don't say that about them in the comments below. Try and explain why you don't think it'll get listed in a different way. I mean, what a mission for you all, but please do that because it would mean a lot to me, because yeah, I don't like to have my excitement for books punctured, but sometimes that's the way of social media, sadly, and some people will just go there. Anyway, not you lovely lot, because you're all blinking lovely, but I hope you enjoyed that video. I will be back very soon with another one, and I will see you all then. Bye.